Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with another episode of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8.6. Okay, well, we're going to continue this. We've got Austria in the Reich a little earlier than historically done. I did off camera go through and reshuffle some officers, put all the three of the mountain divisions together there. These guys have a reconnaissance unit. Maybe we'll add a recon unit to this HQ someday once we start building things like that, which is not that far off actually, as I think about it now. Okay, Japan has annexed Shaanxi. Shaanxi has been conquered, of course, to be annexed. Let's take a look under the political map. Okay. Well, the war goes on in the east. Excuse me. Now, let's see. We have a few extra free spies because of increase in leadership, various things, including getting Austria. Oh, well, intelligence. So, we could, of course, reduce down the number of spies. I'm trying to think here. Let's see about, Japan. Let's spy on Japan. Tech espionage. I'm just sort of hoping they have some naval techs that we don't have. Yeah, that's what we want to do. Okay, the Austrian SA. I know I've talked about this in earlier episodes, so I won't go too deep here. They were, of course, just like the German SA, except for they were in Austria for a while. They had been, a bunch of them had been in prison. They had officially been banned. They got to the point that at least most of the prison, the imprisoned ones were let out. They were still banned from wearing political uniforms, maybe even worked under different various group names, or not necessarily calling themselves exactly the SA. But as you can see, there is a picture from either before joining the Reich or very after, in that they're not wearing a political uniform. Everybody owns white shirts. Everybody owns, presumably in Austria, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people, at least back then, owned lederhosen. So they'll put on white socks, gray or black lederhosen, that kind of thing, and sort of be uniform but without being in a uniform. So that's sort of how they would march and demonstrate and do their thing before that. And so this very, very quickly, though, once Germany took it over, I'm sure within the weeks, they were out buying proper SA uniforms because the Nazis would want to sell them their uniforms. So that has to be either before or very close to after. Many of the SA units in Austria before and continued to have Edelweisses either on their collar tabs or on their hats, various things. These colors that are behind it vary to each different SA units and stuff. So, Groß Deutsches Reich, the Greater Reich. So we lose some supplies, uniforming them up. We've got the Here's their commander, so it's in Linz is where their headquarters, so we will directly attach them to the head of the SA. Okay. The Pact of Steel, this is the version of the event that happens once just sort of notifying that they've got the strategic effect. So sort of notifying you of that. Historical outdated Austrian aircraft. Okay, we can offer them to Hungary, or we can take them. They really are pretty old. Let's give them to Hungary this time. I think last time we took them, but let's give them to Hungary. So see, they're Hungarian, and they leave. Go to Hungary. Fly out. This has the name of, Gebirgsjäger Brigade. There's no special traits for any of those units. And he has his correct leader there. Nah. I had no real great interest of creating units, militia quality units that just fought a little better in the mountains. But they probably did. And probably a lot of those personnel just because of where they grew up. You notice Hill Warrior, Highlander. We got a few more SA leaders because it's turned 38. That's primarily because of Austria coming in. Just quickly scanning down here to see if I see the SA symbol. Yes, I'm going fast enough that I may miss it, but there may be one or two more. And I'm probably not going back in, so I don't need anybody to go do research, but I really had a hard time trying to find names and photos, tagged to the name for SA leaders that were alive and functioning at the time of the game. A few show up much later because it's sort of when they joined or were promoted up to a reasonable level. And I guess that's it. And some, of course, had already died that I found. Died in 35 or 34 or something. Good, we're getting more and more steel. We got to build that steel up. Okay, this is around this time is when Goering is promoted to General Field Marshal. We'll get into later when he becomes Reichsmarschall, but at the moment this is in 38, I think this just time Hermann Goering is promoted to rank of Marshal of the Luftwaffe, which is General Field Marshal Goering. And part of the reason I made this is obviously to show it, to talk about his promotions, but this is his General Field Marshal's baton. He gets a different one later on because I found it, because it still exists, and a good photograph of his sort of personal flag for that. And the reason it costs so much is not really making the flag, it's just all the extra cost of making Goering happy, and we get a little Air Force HQ gain. So Okay, now this is something that is not from me, so I'm interested in seeing it. I haven't seen it before, I don't think. Established propaganda units in the Wehrmacht. Okay, in mid-1938, the OKW and Goebbels' Ministry of Propaganda agreed to establish specialized propaganda units, Propaganda Company PK, in the Wehrmacht, which would be militarily controlled, however, instructed by the ministry. During wartime, these units would gather materials at the front line, which would be then used by the ministry. In April 1939, the Wehrmacht Propaganda Division, Abteilung für Wehrmacht Propaganda, WPR, was established. At the start of the war, there were 7 PK units in the Heers, 4 in the Luftwaffe, and 1 unit in the Kriegsmarine available. Okay. So, Home Front Coordination Political Secretary. Okay, good. I wanted to go look at, particularly was here. So you can see both the Naval and the Air Force were done very close together not to do that, so we got a bump. Which is good. Nice. And what is now available? I'll reorganize the Luftwaffe command structure. Sure. 1937-38 event. Okay. That is part of the reason why I haven't been playing with too many of the commands here, because they're all going to go, organization going to go bye-bye. We should have new ones. And they need to be attached. Here. Oh, that's it. Should have passed it. See. There it is. Down at the bottom. Sparrow. Okay, I guess we don't have one for Austria yet. Yeah, well, some other time off camera I'll maybe go on and reorganize. Attach a bit more. Okay, submarine class is advanced. Very good. Now, since it's 38, and these are 38 submarines, we're going to let that continue. And we'll do some of these other attacks around it. So we'll let that go. Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. In theory, the Ober served as the military general staff. The Third Reich, coordinating efforts of the Army and the Air Force, Heers, Kriegsmarine, Luftwaffe. In practice, the OKW acted as Hitler's personal staff, translating his ideas into military orders and issuing them to the 3 services while having little control over them. However, there was progress, or as the war progressed, the OKW found itself exercising increasing amounts of direct command authority over the military units, particularly in the West. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what that changed. Oh, here. It fired a decision. It made a decision allowed to happen. Well, we're still on. Don't want to give full push to that. We're getting various units. Oh, there we go. Okay, what is... Okay. Interesting. I haven't seen it in this version before. Obviously here it's adding a Keitel in command, which I think he was. Okay, so here, interesting. This is obviously the theater headquarters, the topmost level you can have in the game. It can have unlimited amount of attachments directly to it. It's the only one that can do that. Where here, this is where this is in charge of the army, or in charge of all the military. These are the administrative offices or something, shall we say, here. But they're one below this, where this should be one above. Okay, interesting. It's sort of two... Okay, well, other than having this sitting on the map here, don't really know how it's going to help us out, other than just pure immersion, because I don't think I want to attach any units to this. Obviously I could stick this under here, which is what I believe I've done before, just because it's a good HQ and it had commanded in the west, and I still might do that, but it can't have an unlimited amount of... So I'm not going to put anything under Hitler other than his immediate Führer headquarters. And I may attach some other Führer headquarters to it. So we'll see how useful that is. Lutz in Italy. I thought this was quite interesting as part of the essay. Lutz travels to Italy along with I'm blanking here, and he's not specified. Hess. That's Hess there. But so the two of them travel. This is now prior to Austria getting in the Reich historically. Lutz travels to Rome to check out the black shirts because he's in charge of the SA. Then he travels on, which is sort of the main picture here, on to Libya in North Africa and sees what's going on there, sort of continuing to build German-Italian relations. Both of them did. So this is that. Is the food good? So improve relationships. So if we hadn't yet got... Oh, what do they want? Okay, they're going to disappear soon, but okay. They hadn't yet formally joined the Axis or whatever, or hadn't yet gotten Austria and Germany, or as part of Germany, so they were trying to sweet talk Mussolini and go, hey, we're not going to be a threat to you if we share our borders, that kind of stuff. Okay. This event, the headlines in the newspaper is taken from the Los Angeles Times of the period. Goering orders all Jews out of Austria. The best I can identify this photo is whether it is from that exact speech that they reference, but it's definitely of that time and in Austria, and you can tell from the various uniform details and some of the other stuff. It's one of those speeches is Goering is giving his speeches. Basically, this is the Jews must get out. Vienna is a German city, or is not a German city because of the 300,000 Jews living here. Vienna must become German again. The Jews must know we do not care to live with him, or the Jew, whatever. He must go. So this is part of Germany dealing with the Jews that were there. They were very upfront about all their stuff, and partially because this is in the U.S. papers, why this is affecting the U.S., because this was negatively received by the U.S., and we gained some dissent because it's disrupting what's going on in Germany and going on in integrating Austria in it. Now, again, as I've said before, and I don't know all the details, but there was very significant control on taking money and valuables out of Germany. Basically, any Jew who wanted to go could leave, but they would literally search them as individuals, as they were leaving the country, to make sure that they weren't, carrying, obviously, the stereotypical diamonds, but it would also be bonds or other sorts of stock holdings or anything that was seen as of value. I know one of the Rothschild families that was in Austria at the time, just as the German invasion was coming, they set up they very quickly got a motorcade and drove out. I don't know exactly what country they left to, whether to Hungary or to Yugoslavia or to Italy. I think they eventually ended up in Italy, but they got out. And so some of the very rich, and I know the perception was all the Jews were rich. They weren't, but it's also all the presumption that Jews, all their money was liquid. It wasn't. For many, many years, generations, really, Jews were not allowed to own land in many European countries. I'm talking significant tracts of land, not necessarily, I don't know, owning a house in a city, but often they were in ghettos. So Jews weren't allowed to be part of the landed gentry, if you will. And now by the 20th century that had changed, at least in most countries. But so that they traditionally had wealth that was portable, but also the wealth was portable because they had been thrown out of countries before. So this was a significant disruption going on in Austria, and people fleeing. And they weren't, like I say, about anybody who wanted to was allowed out of the country, just that they weren't allowed out with any sort of valuables of any sort. So this is why there was, when the rounding up of the Jews actually started happening, once the war started, this is why there were still so many left in Germany, is because, whether Austria or other parts of Germany is that they hadn't realized how bad it was going to get, of course, on the one hand, and on the other hand, they couldn't, if they leave, they weren't going to be able to, even if they sold their property, their shop, their whatever, and if they had that, they couldn't even take any money out. And a lot of people, a lot of the Jews, even, because lots and lots of them were just basically salaried workers, they didn't have anywhere to go. We've talked about in the earlier episodes about a lot of Jews, not just from Germany, but a lot of Jews emigrating to Palestine out here, the Palestine Mandate. But you're a German citizen. You're not a French citizen. You're not a Swiss citizen. You're not an Italian citizen. You didn't necessarily have anywhere to go. There wasn't well-established refugee status at this time. A lot of that, there were refugees, and there was a lot of stuff taking care of that, but it wasn't anything like it is today. Free movement of people wasn't so simple, and so you would end up in a country. This is before people started, English, as I've talked about, has become a language that connects people around the world now. But most French people didn't speak German. Most Germans didn't speak French, similarly with English or whatever. So you're ending up in a country that you don't speak or understand any languages. So you don't have any high-level skills to interact there. And even if you do sort of have reasonably good technical skills of some sort, you can't interact with the locals, because you may be an electrician or a butcher or something that has skills, but you're not able to, you might get the lowest level job in that field, and they may realize that you have good skills, but you can't communicate with your customers or whatever. And so that's all a problem. So a lot of people weren't just ready to up and leave. Now, of course, I am sure that 99% of them, if they had realized that you either leave or you go to death camps, they would have been leaving. They just didn't realize it at the point. So, but this causes a significant disruption. This is part of the significant disruption coming in, and why there's the 4.3 element, and why there should be something of it. Doesn't need to be on the historical date, but it shouldn't be too soon after this, because we got to take care of the disruption. Okay, single engine fighter prototypes have advanced. Most excellent. Which is grayed out now, and we will start, since everything sort of to one degree or another is based on and will be needed to go up, is engine types, so we will do that. Okay, finally we're getting up here on some steel. Okay, we're barely losing money, so let's see if we can sell some supplies to the US. Yes, I don't know. Let's go with 16. Okay. Heinkel Sud Schwitt, sorry, I'm butchering that. I'm sure I'm butchering it. After the onslaught of Austria, the German aircraft manufacturer Heinkel established a factory in the town of Schwitt near Vienna. Should we build this facility? This is from Third Reich events. So we can build it. We'll get an aircraft factory. We lose a lot of supplies and money. So we will do this, which will help our aircraft production rate. Okay, this is also from one of the newspapers, Los Angeles Times at the time. Is Brazil considers admitting Austrians. The Brazilian Foreign Office is considering admitting refugees from Austria. This wasn't just Jews, but Jews were definitely a part of this. There were lots of Austrians out there that effectively either are now German citizens or become stateless, because Austrian papers are no longer considered valid. A lot of Latin American countries were looking for technical expertise, but I would also say cultural expertise in moving Europeans into Latin America. We see this very significantly in Argentina, but also I would say Uruguay, or in some ways particularly Uruguay, is a very more European country than some of the other Latin American countries. A lot of the other Latin American countries has a lot more, if you will, Indian influences in its cultures. Some of them it's not just Spanish, it's a mix of Spanish and Latin cultures that develop in the different ones. Brazil had a long-standing tradition of letting different groups in. There were a lot of Southerners after the Civil War emigrated to Brazil. I would say more than half, within the generation that moved down there, moved back to the U.S. Part of the reason they immigrated to Brazil, because at that time, just after the American Civil War, Brazil still had slavery, and so a lot. And I don't think it was just, hey, I want to own slaves. The only place I can own slaves is in Brazil, so I'm going to go to Brazil. I think it was more the idea that there was with a lot of them, and a lot of these people weren't rich, and a lot of them didn't even own slaves. They just felt that their country, the Confederacy, was gone, and they didn't want to live, and because especially in a lot of it happened not like in the immediate 2 or 3 months after the war. It was the immediate year or two after the war that the harsh occupational policies of the North just really pushed a lot of Southerners off, and they just wanted out, and a lot of them went to other places. There was lots of Confederate officers signed up for the Egyptian army at the time, and just other places. Again, a lot of it had nothing to do with slavery in other parts of the world. It just, they weren't going to stay as part of the U.S., whether they signed their oath of surrender and allegiance or not. They just weren't going to stay. They were getting out, and so a lot of them go other places. Brazil tried to get a lot of them down. Some stayed on for a long time. There's still a few descendants living down in Brazil to this day that trace their ancestry back. They're no longer like white people or whatever, most of them. They're mixed with the locals now by this time, but they did come down, and they do have ancestry traced back to the American South. So Brazil has a tradition of trying to bring in dispossessed people into it, that they find not as in masses like Syrian refugees, but as in technical people. So if you, I don't know, have Syrian doctors or Syrian technicians or somebody else, theoretically, those are the type of people, and I don't know what it is like today, but in the past they have very much did this. So this basically pisses off, wrecks our relations a little bit with Brazil, because they're letting in Austrians, which we don't recognize the existence of Austrians anymore, because they're all Germans. Battleship crew training has advanced. Well, good. Well, we want to pause that. Get to the right one here. Yeah, it's already into 39, so we don't want to continue that. And yes, let's go to some of the more important for us things. Alright, well, we've got this here. Now this is because we've just hit over 5,000 steel. Now, what this is two things are happening all at once. Is we're getting to choose, and I'm going to, if I can do this right, do both of them before the cost shoots up or cuts in or something. We have both improved, like Imperial Ministry, Imperial University, War Ministry, Finance, and whatever, but we also have the some of the ones that are available to us of major infrastructure things: mining, railroad tycoon, farm mechanization. Like, those are all good for us. We can take a quick look here. As part of what I'm doing this is for is a tutorial on how to play. So that's why we're looking at this. So okay, here we are. Mining obviously costs some manpower and some ICs, but we get more crude, energy, and metal. Railroad production efficiency, which I totally agree, and supply throughput is good, just better railroads. Agricultural gets us more manpower, helps offset the mining. So we will eventually want all three of those. We've already got national highway from the effects for earlier, which since Germany was at this point in time, 1936 or so, was the best on national highways. Nowhere else had national highways. You look around Britain at this time, it might have had a few things that would qualify as highways and whatnot, but nothing like the dual carriageways each way, separated, all that kind of stuff. Nowhere in any large, great systematic. I'll believe you if you point to that something existed in France or Britain or the U.S. at the time, but it wasn't, if you will, nationwide. Definitely wasn't nationwide like it becomes after the war under the Eisenhower presidency in the United States. That's all Eisenhower looking and seeing the Autobahn and going, we need that in America. For military reasons as well as just, it's a good thing. So there wasn't, so again, I'm saying there are very likely some major highways between some major cities like on the East Coast or something like that. I'll grant you that that's very likely. But there wasn't a national system. And you could also argue that Germany's might or might not have a national system because great significant areas are not connected to it, but it definitely has the biggest national system in existence at the time. So that's why you got it by an event. Okay, then here is the big ministry buildings, police headquarters, movie studio. There's some talk that the money that costs for the movie studio you don't really ever get back, but daily descent change is nice. Imperial seat of government is very good. A lot of national unity, ruling party support. Leadership modifier, probably where I'm going to go. My first tendency was to go for universities. %, 2%. It's the ruling party support. How are we doing for? Well, as soon as we get what is it? Monumental architecture through, and where are we with that? So here, as soon as we get this done in May 38 there. So that isn't so long away, which we might get another one of these to fire. I don't know if there's how much of a cooldown there may be, but excuse me. Okay, back. Which we should have had because of our steel problem. We didn't have one of these fire, both of these fire last year at some point. We really should have. So I think I will go with the university ones. So what we want to do is come up here, and I want to go mining because all the others are good, but I'm still worried about oil. I mean, oil is a critical thing, and we want to start building that up as early as possible. And before the effects there, Imperial University. The only thing I did for this was substitute a different picture. That's a picture of Heidelberg University. You can see a few people in German uniforms around there, in which the sports shirt symbol for Heidelberg University is with the little swastika there on the thing. So just what's going on to let everyone know. We're going to build this. Again, this costs lots of money. No supplies, or no steel. Don't know why you needed steel. Well, that costs metal. Costs a lot of metal, so I understand why that one does. But we will gain 2 leadership in Berlin, gain some dissent. I guess that means students. Probably that as much as they also want us just to spend money in reducing, or spend resources in reducing the dissent. Yeah, we're gonna university cooldown, university cooldown. I don't think this gives us a cooldown, so yes. And open new mines. So costs us a lot, but in the long run I do believe it is worth it. So that is why I'm not going to click that just yet. Well, maybe we should. That may set a cooldown. We want it to happen as fast as possible. Knowledge to initiate another giant. Okay. So we need to continue to get these resources up here again. Okay, some stuff. Mining, so now we have the 2 effects hit, which, like I say, we can offset the manpower with eventually with the agricultural one. We'll actually improve it because that's -10, where that's a +15, while still getting all of the additional. Well, it's also rare materials too. Maybe that was just lost on the scroll down thing. Couldn't show it all. And so rare materials is also very nice to get. And leadership. So we have a lot more leadership now. And plus efficiency in researching, which just makes things go faster without specifically having more leadership in. Okay, we need to do that. Get some of the basics up. We'll start research there. See, look at all those benefits. Air defense, air attack. For a lot of units there. So yeah. We'll go with that. That uses up all of our additional leadership there. Sure. We won't be able to buy it for very long, I don't think, but okay. Yes. Again, I talked about this in the previous series, but just briefly, it fascinates me as an American. And I've collected a bunch of these things for all these different organizations, all the different membership type passes. And this is not just a little card. These are sort of pass books. Now, part of that was to keep track of payments into the parties, pay your dues, and that kind of stuff I get. But photos and all that stuff, it just seems a lot of effort. And this is for part of the SDP, the Germans in Czechoslovakia of that chain, and that's why I often maybe dig too deep. Okay, we need to pause just because I don't want anything happening. Okay, we need to increase this because we're now building up a lot. Now there will be events coming at some point that will reduce it, but I don't know when or if they're happening, and some of them are conditioned. Some of them will happen after we get Czechoslovakia in, but that's good. Let's lock that down for the moment. That can go down to Still doing 37 of 55 needed for upgrades. So we're upgrading a lot of things. It's just taking a while. And part of that is new things are showing up. And now also I want to look. Let's see. Okay, well, once we get through a lot of these, and they're getting pretty cheap now still, we'll start deploying some of these and then upgrading them. I want to deploy these, well, I'm going to war in mid-early 40 is my current target time. So by 38 I should see about deploying them. So that's almost a year from now that we want to do commander decision making advance. Here. And spotting's also 39 too. Did we miss that? Was it one of these that are down here? I don't know. We don't need to continue to push that though. However, whenever it happened. Okay, so 38. Get that going forward. And get that. Bulgaria, give them money for rare materials. Okay, some of that will disappear, that money, because some of the people we're trading with. Okay, battlefield concentration. Or battle fleet concentration, sorry. Yeah, we're going to see about shifting that over to a needed, important ground. Marine activation. Maybe under marine activation. And basing concentration at least 2. Okay, well, so maybe we want to push that forward a little bit. That would be here, but not, okay, now we'll wait till 39. We don't need Marines that soon. So, well, let's some of our naval bombers in that. Again, this is just the 38 automobile, Berlin automobile show. So we get a little bonuses there for various technologies. They're automotively designed. Okay. And this all comes down to part of my reasoning for why Germany was so much stronger than, say, Hungary, because of these international shows. And I'm sure Hungary had some, but nothing near the level. Okay. This is leading up to getting demands on for the Sudetenland. Obviously, we got a lot of dissent here, so that's sort of gone away for the moment. It'll come back. This is one of Hitler's Reichstag speeches. Obviously, we've already, honest neighbors, we've already got Austria. Austria's gone, so it doesn't affect them. But this happens also at a time when historically Austria was still in existence. And so Italy's a little, like I say, Mussolini's getting warmer to the idea of having Germany as a powerful neighbor, but it's still, historically, still not warm yet to it. Obviously in this game we've done a better job, and we've got them in the Axis, and they're all happy and good. That kind of thing. And it's just a little hard to code to have one version of the event fire with, with or without, not hurt our relations. Because it wouldn't obviously hurt the relations if Germany is in the... Okay. Okay. No, thank you. Is in the Axis, but you do what you can. Okay, light cruiser training. That is reasonably important. Because then, well, just 2 classes. And close that to flying boat. Okay, so we've got 100% officers. Oh, and this is also related to the same automobile show. This is Hannah Rice. She flies the helicopter around inside the building. Sort of the first to do one inside the building. So rather sort of spectacular. And part of it is her piloting skills, of course, but just that they've perfected a helicopter enough. It's obviously sort of shaped like an aircraft with 2 sets of blades out on each sort of wing, if you will, but that they've got it fairly controlled and fairly reliable to do it there. So it's showing the technology advance. The engine's down in the sort of traditional aircraft place. Not a practical aircraft in a military sense, but it's something that's working. So we gain a little bit. Obviously, we're not going to research that until later, but that, okay. IG Farben, this is an event that covers its, obviously Bear Aspirin there, covers its medical research. We can not do it. Well, we're going to do it. We're still pumping in a lot of steel. I want to get that up to hopefully get another major effect in building and whatnot going on. And we're auto-saving. Good. Okay. Tech just showed up. Air bases for southern Germany. Yes, we want those. And yes, we need to remember to come down here and put them all up top. That will help get through that. And what tech? Just gasoline engines. Okay, that would be here. We need to get the tracks to start getting improvements there. Yeah, not just yet. Well, let's do light polymer prototypes. Third Moscow show trials. Yes, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. We've got blueprints from, well, or tactical manuals, maybe. Installation strikes. From the U.S. That would be there. That's why we're up at 37 there, I presume. Okay, good, nice. Getting something back for our spies there. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, we put in a new ambassador to Japan. Eugene Oates, his main goal will be to strengthen our relationship. Okay, I hope that works. Don't know why they're using a Soviet flag and whoever that is in the image there. SS Standard der Führer. This I know to be the SS's sort of, obviously they didn't have Tiger tanks at this time, but from Austria, as I had said earlier in episodes, there was a SS element going on, though before Austria comes in, that they had a training camp here and were doing various hardcore sort of Nazi type activities. Before Germany, SSVT, and before Austria becomes part of Germany, so just ongoing, and so now it's formed up. I'm pretty sure it wasn't 10,000 men, though. I could be wrong, but okay. Spanish state has annexed the Spanish Republic. So I'm guessing the reason Madrid held out for so long was, and the reason now that it's failed, is either presumably by an event or something they had fortifications, and maybe by an event they removed the fortifications at some point, or maybe just finally the Nationalist Army took Madrid, but that's been for some time now. The only city, only territory not east of the mainland. May have been something down here, but it was still in Republican hands. So our friends the Spanish are now at peace. Okay, give them money for rare materials, sure. And give them money for fuel, no. We like you, Portugal. We want to become your friends, Portugal, but we don't want to buy fuel. Yeah, we got a lot of units waiting to be deployed. Okay, you know, I'm going to deploy, just because it may trigger something else, this unit here. I think that's it for the moment. Like I say, by the beginning of 30... just had a conversation on Hearts of Iron 4 forum about auto-assigning generals, and then I could come up with a good, like a if-then flowchart type thing. You know, I can't program it, but I could sort of design it on how to much better auto-assign generals to units, but my Manstein should not be lost into this thing. Okay, let's see what we can find here. Okay, well, he's AA. Well, I guess that's okay. Those AA officers are meant for the various anti-aircraft units. You know, decent ground control types. Oh, okay, so these are all now assigned correctly. At least so far. Just what's done, yeah, that's right. Okay, mountain unit command and control advance, good, but I want to start shifting, even though these, well, still just in 38, up to things like here. And let's well, this episode is probably long enough, so I want to thank all of you again for watching. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you can, like the videos, and please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. I love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.